Hello, everybody.
Number 6. Given f of x equals 2, and then in parentheses we have 4 minus x, what is the value of f of negative 1? Negative 1 is in the x spot. So what we're going to do is we are going to put negative 1 in the x spot over here. So we have 2 and then 4 minus this subtraction sign is in right here in our formula. And then we're plugging in a negative 1 in the x spot. So we have a negative 1. And so that looks kind of weird. We need to simplify that. We don't do subtracting negatives. We can write it like this. Plus 1. So we have 2. And then we have 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. So order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And I write it like this to remind you guys that you have to multiply and divide whatever comes first from left to right, then add, subtract whatever comes first from left to right. So we had to do our parentheses first. There's no exponents for this question. Then we multiplied at the end because the adding was inside those parentheses. 2 times 5 is 10. So on your answer document, the algebra answer document has decimals that you get to pick where it goes, and since this one doesn't have a decimal in it, you can put the 10 wherever you want. You can put it over here, you can put it at the end, you can put it in the middle, as long as the 1 digit is right next to the 0 digit. The algebra template also has a positive or a negative. If a number is positive, you don't have to say it's positive because we understand that if we just have a number. But you do have to write if it's negative. So if you want to, you can bubble the positive for this one, and then you would also bubble the 1, and you would also bubble the 0. If you would like to do this one using our technology, you would have to type in the entire function, and then you go and you can do it a couple different ways. You could also type in, so we're typing in this entire thing in one box like I have, and you can type in the next line in the box below it. So you got to f of, and then we're going to change it to a negative 1. And down here it also tells you that your answer is correct with a 10. You could also, if you wanted to, change to a table. And that's what I did. I just changed that to a table. And my negative 1 in the x column will give me a 10 in the y column. So again, 3 different ways to do the same question. Question number 7 is the same kind of question. G of x equals 4 parentheses x squared minus 3 plus 12. What is the value of g of 8? So I would take this 8 because it's in the x spot, and I would plug it into the x variable. So by hand it looks like this. 4, and then we have 8 squared minus 3 plus 12. So we would have 4 and then 64. 8 times 8 is 64 minus 3 plus 12. 64 minus 3, because remember we are following our order of operations. So inside the parentheses I was still following order of operations, exponents. Then we're going to subtracting at 61. And so we have 4 times 61 plus 12. And you can do this one on your calculators or on your Desmos. 61 times 4 is going to give you 244 plus 12. And that's going to be a 6, a 5, and a 2. 256, which would be answer C. So that's how you do it by hand. Again, following those order of operations. You could also use your technology. And remember, whatever I put in a box, you are going to type it exactly the same way on your Desmos. So if you wanted to use Desmos for this one, you would type in that top box exactly what we have. So we go to the alpha screen, so we can type in G of x equals 4, and then parentheses x squared. If you're using Desmos, you don't have to plug in the number. The program, the calculator will do it for you. Okay, now there's no answer here. The answer comes from the next thing that we do. We tell it what to look for. We can say go to the, and we notice I put another box, so you're going to tap another line. Go to the G equation, and then in parentheses there's that 8, and so you're telling Desmos to go plug in the 8 for you, and the answer is 256. You could also, if you don't like doing it that way, you can also change your equation to a table, and the 8 is in the X spot, we said. So in the X column, you can go look for 8, and since it's not there, I'm going to add it to the X column, and 8 is in the X column, 256 is in the right column. So again, that's 3 different ways to do the function notation questions. Question number 8, which function does not show y as a function of x? When it says not, you need to be very careful. Underline it, circle it, make it stand out. And again, you can also play one of these things is not like the other. Don't just look for your answer, check all of them. So whenever we're talking about function, we're looking at our x column. In this case, it's a row because our table is going sideways. And we're looking for all of the x values to be different. It means this isn't a function. Okay? And if you're not being careful, you might pick that even though the answer is not. So again, I would go through the rest of them just to make sure you think you found it. One answer should be different than the others. These are the same. This one is not a function. Okay? Here, these are all different. This one's a function. Okay. These are all different. This one's also a function. So which one is not a function? The answer is G. So we're looking for the one that is not a function. And again, you can see that one of these things is not like the other. So that's your answer choice. Question number 9. Given the graph below, determine the value of f of 8. So f of x, we're going to write our self-notes so that we can remember. The more we see it, hear it, and do it, the better we can remember it. The 8 is in the x place. So on the x-axis, we're going to go to 8. So on the x-axis, we're going to go over to 8. So this is our sideways number, our number that goes left and right, our horizontal value on the x-axis. Now you're going to tell me how far up to get to this part of the graph. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And yes, that is a 6. Our boxes are counting by ones. So then 6 is our y value. And so the answer is C.